When the engineer arrived, Bertie was in his shorts, without a t-shirt, preparing to go out for a sunbathe. He cursed as the doorbell rang, answering with a scowl. If this was one of those bloody politicians. "NTL?" the smartly suited man asked in a friendly voice. "You called about the computer." "Oh, you." Bertie showed him in. They headed into the lounge, where the visitor opened up a case and began removing various documents. He looked over his glasses and checked a sheet in front of him. "So, a temperamental CPU. Let's see what we can do. I want it fixing," came the order, as his host pointed to the monitor standing on the table. He tapped its screen. "It's not having note in this." "Well, there could be many reasons." "Aye, well, you're not here to tell me about it, son. You're here to fix it." The engineer wondered if he should feel complimented by this son, since he was 45 years old. "Look, I've no quarrel with you," Bertie assured him, "but your firm's let me down, and I don't want to stand here going round the houses. I just want it fixed. I don't reckon that's too much to ask." The engineer stood for a moment, before taking a tentative walk towards the table. "No, absolutely not. Well, look sharp to it," said Bertie, already heading out of the door. As if to explain his departure, he cocked an eye to the sunshine streaming through the French windows. "You know where I'll be, son." Outside, Bertie at first lay back and tried to doze, but the whirring of a road drill put paid to that idea. What made it worse was that in between each burst of drilling he could hear the playful voices of the primary school children on their afternoon break. After 5 minutes of turning over and trying to block his ears, he eventually decided to take a stroll. The garden looked parched, the flowers wilting. A large green watering can stood expectantly on the ledge, but the thought of walking back and forth from the conservatory tap to refill it, not to mention the burden of lugging it over the plants, was highly off-putting. Instead, Bertie browsed about the garden as one might do a bookshop, turning a leaf here, watching a bumblebee there. Once more, he wandered aimlessly. He had reached the drive and was walking literally up and down it, gazing at nothing but his house's concrete walls, when the engineer appeared at the door. "Mr. Brayfield?" Bertie feigned nonchalance. "I think I've found the problem." To Bertie's surprise, the engineer had removed the monitor from the table and had replaced it with the tower itself. He had unscrewed the rear panel, and a clump of wires was seen tangling near its base. He tapped a socket with his screwdriver. "See here, this is where your CPU generates the hard disk. Well, if any of these connections are fouled up," he pointed at the wires, "you can expect it to mess up. Basically, your hard drive has been massively overloaded, and you've been using software and programs that the system doesn't recognise. If you use any unclean data or files, the system just—" "What do you mean, unclean files? I'm not into anything dodgy." No, I don't mean it like that. Look, say you've got a new car, and you try to take out the engine bit by bit and replace it with your old. Just get to the point. It's like having a surface where food's being prepared, and you've got a fan blowing dirt onto... Oh, you're confusing things even more now." Bertie rubbed his head and paced up and down the living room, like a detective struggling to comprehend some complex mystery. "Look, all I know is that thing," he pointed at the monitor on the floor, "isn't working. I mean, I gave it a good slap yesterday to try and shake it into action, but even that didn't do no good." "Oh, I wouldn't go doing anything like—" "No, but you'll plonk it on the floor, won't you, eh? That's not going to do its circuitry any good, I shouldn't think. So what's the matter with it anyway? Don't go giving us any guff, lad. It's not your fault, but I've had it up to here with your lot. I have. Up to flaming here. So just spit it out." The engineer took a deep breath and smoothed his bristly chin with his hands. He looked at Bertie directly in the eye and tried to speak as slowly and precisely as possible. It seems you've clogged the system up. You've tried using too many programs, too many things at once. When you've logged onto the internet, for instance, you've done it several times simultaneously, and the CPU can't always take it. He removed his glasses and smoothed the lenses on his tie as he continued. OK, it's like the human brain. It can only handle so many commands at once, or else it breaks down. It's literally like a breakdown of the central nervous system. Are you trying to pass this on to me? Bertie took a step towards the engineer, even raising a finger, which he half jabbed in his direction. Is that what you're trying to say? Look, I'm simply pointing out. Well, I don't like it, pal. I don't like what I'm hearing. You're trying to make out this is my fault. With respect, sir, you are the only person, by your own admission, to have used it. Yes, but you've used it now, haven't you, eh? You've been tinkering about with it and pulling it to bits. Not me. You even sent me outside while you did it. If anyone's to blame, lad, it's you. Mr. Brayfield, trying to pass the buck on me. I'll show you. Mr. Brayfield, no one is to blame. He had stepped slightly back, as the bare-chested Bertie now stood, arms folded, like a stoic sentry guard. It's simply that by overpowering the CPU, I'll give you bloody CP, bloody you. I want this thing sorted, mate, and I want it sorting today. Do you get that? Not tomorrow, not the day after, today. I'm afraid. You should be afraid. You come in here, pulling it about, then try blaming me. Well, I'll not have it. No use looking like that. I've had it up to here with your lot, fobbing me off, peddling the lies. Now you say it's my fault. I'll take the unit in and see what we can do. The engineer lifted the machine underneath his arm. Someone will be in touch regarding charges. Oh, no. Bertie shuffled after him, blocking his way to the front door. You're not charging me. It's your mistakes. I've got it insured. I've got a bleeding guarantee. Mr. Brayfield, with respect, it is not our mistake, and you clearly admitted to hitting the machine earlier. That was before you took it to pieces. I only give it a little tap to get it working. I didn't go at it with a bloody screwdriver. Look at it. Aren't you even going to patch it up before you take it in? Mr. Brayfield, there's really no need. You're just going to chuck it in your van, are you? Hope for best. I tell you what. He placed the unit carefully but firmly on the window sill, where he had just enough room. I'll leave it with you, and when you decide, in that state, when you decide you want it fixed, you can give us a ring. The engineer was weary and fed up, and he headed for the door. He began walking down the drive towards his car. Listen here, you know what you can do with your computer? You can stick it, or your programs and your breakdowns and your flaming car engines. The man turned back, as if to brave one last dispute. But Bertie cried, red-faced, You can bloody shove it! Bertie did not mean to strike the unit with such force. He had needed to take out his anger on something nearby, and it just so happened that the computer itself stood right within his path. He had taken a swing, it was true, but a gentle swing, a swing of irritation rather than of anger, like playing a table tennis forehand to a child. But he could only stand and watch, open-mouthed, as the unit fell to the floor, an oblong bulk of plastic, wires and power. It almost bounced on one side with a crash and bang, and the back panel, half open and hung with cables, snapped and dropped away. The engineer smiled vengefully, entering his car and driving off. Bertie stood there between the living room and door, eyes alternating between the driveway and the wreck. Finally, he stepped to the door and slammed it shut, punching the wall beside him with a grunt. He gathered up the machine, placing it like an injured animal on the couch, slumping down beside it and sighing ruefully. He felt both angry and resolved. That bloody company, he thought, has stitched me up from beginning to end. But I'll make 'em pay. Oh, aye, I'll make the bloody buggers pay.